So in June of 2000, I was diagnosed with brain cancer. It's a grade 4. It's called glioblastoma multiforme. It's a kind that infiltrates and grows into your brain and takes your brain over. When I was first diagnosed, the statistics said I should be dead by now. But I went from 2000 to 2004, it reoccurred, it came back. Then in 2007, it came back again, and then 2009, last March, it came back again. So I've been through 4 brain surgeries. Each time in my left temporal lobe, I can do a good comb over so I can hide it. So in 2004, when I had survived 4 years, I wanted to climb to the top of Mount Shasta. It's a beautiful mountain. And when I made the climb, I really saw a similarity between climbing a trail up a mountain and going through trials in life. And things really jumped out at me, and I really felt like I learned a lot on that climb. And I would love to share with you what I learned, hoping that it would also talk in your heart and help you going through hard times. To climb the mountain, I started training. To be successfully to go through a trial in life, we need to train. We need to be ready. The next thing I learned when I was climbing up Mount Shasta was to take it step by step. When we first started out, the guide, Gennaro, who was our guide, amazing guy, he told us to take it step by step. He calls it rest step, where you go 1, 2, rest. Take a step, 1, 2, rest. If we had looked up to the peak, looked up at all the gnarly places we had to climb, it would have been overwhelming, and we would have thought, there's no way I can do that. And it's that way when we're going through our trials in life, that if we try to look ahead too far in advance, it seems unbearable. It seems like it's impossible to do. So it's really important to take it step by step. And it's just helped me so much, because if I start looking ahead with cancer, I get my next MRI this coming Friday. If I think about what's going to happen if they give me the news for the 5th time that there's a tumor growing in my brain, what's going to happen? I mean, the fact that I can even still talk now, I may lose my ability to talk, I may be paralyzed, I might have a stroke. There's just so many things that could happen. The next thing I learned climbing up the mountain is when we're going through hard times, we can be overcome by anxiety and depression. When I wasn't that far up the mountain, when we would take a break, I would sit down and I would start thinking about, oh man, it is freezing cold out here. What's it going to be like, up at the peak? My legs were already in pain, and I would think that I knew the trail was going to get harder and harder. And I would start thinking about all the things that are going to be coming, and I started getting sick. I started getting nauseous. I felt like I was going to throw up, and it felt like I was going to come out the other end at the same time. And when you're up on Mount Shasta, they give you a bag. And you have to go number 2 in that bag, zip it up, and pack it out. And if you don't, you will get a fine of $500. So I was so sick, I filled my bag and my husband's bag. It was bad. But what was so interesting is I found out when I was actually going and taking it step by step, I was not sick at all. It only took 2 breaks of when I stopped and started worrying and thinking and getting caught up in anxiety and depression that's when it hit me. So once I realized it was my own mind that was doing it, I wasn't sick anymore. So I made the rest of the climb. I didn't have to borrow anybody else's bag. So I really realized that where our mind goes, and especially it can start out with anxiety, but depression can just go worse and worse. And it needs to be nipped in the bud. It needs to be stopped sooner than later. Otherwise, we can become to where we can't even move ahead. When I was climbing Mount Shasta, I got to the point where it was called Misery Hill. It is a place where you just look at it, you're going to have to climb through it, and it gives you misery. Climbing up, it gives you misery. And on Misery Hill, but you're almost to the peak. I mean, you're at the last little bit. And I got to that point, and I said, Matt, my husband, he climbed the mountain with me. And when we got to that point, I said, that is close enough. I could see it. It's just right there. That's good enough. I don't need to go any further. And he said, absolutely not. You're going to keep going. And he was in front of me, and then another guide was behind me, Brandon. And they started encouraging me, cheering me on. They were like little cheerleaders. And Matt would go, keep going. You could do it. You could do it. And Brandon, you could do it. You could do it. And then if they weren't there really cheering me on, I think I would have stopped there. I probably would have stopped, and so I'm close enough to the peak. That's good enough. But it was because of their encouragement that I kept going. And that has been so true going through the brain cancer for me, I think for all of us going through trials in life. But I think so often I've talked to people and they feel alone. They feel like they don't have somebody there cheering them on. They feel there's not somebody there to encourage them. Or they might have the feeling, I know I have at times, nobody understands what I'm going through. You know, not everybody has brain cancer. They don't know what it's like. Everybody's trials are different. And I never felt like somebody was there. Sometimes when I really need encouragement, I'm alone. I finally made it to the peak after I climbed up Misery Hill. And it was amazingly beautiful. I mean, it was an amazing view that I would have never seen if I was not there at the peak. And I realized that going through trials in life, whether it's brain cancer or other trials I've been through, other trials you all have been through, that you would never be able to see life through that new view, the new vision that you have after you persevere. After climbing Mount Shasta, I really think of trials in life as being mountains. And I really think of them as being a mountain range. I think of the Cascades. You know the Cascade mountain range that goes through Oregon. There's, you know, bigger mountains and smaller, but it is a mountain range that keeps going and going and going. And that's the way with us, with trials in our lives. We're not just going to have one. We're going to have many, some bigger, some smaller, but they will keep coming.